Session of hydraulic turbines. Today in this class, we are discussing about reaction turbines. So, unlike Pelton turbines, reaction turbines utilize reactive force. The case of Pelton turbine, we are using impulsive force. So in the reaction turbines, the runner utilizes both potential and kinetic energy. So the runner is using both potential and kinetic energy. The case of impulse turbine, the runner uses the kinetic energy only because before striking the impulse turbine, the whole pressure energy gets converted into kinetic energy when it passes through the nozzle. So in here, as the water flows through the stationary part of the turbine, whole of its pressure energy is not transferred to kinetic energy. And when the water flows through the moving parts, there is a change both in pressure and in the direction and velocity of flow of water. As the water gives up its energy to the runner, both its pressure and absolute velocity get reduced. The water which acts on the runner blade is under a pressure above atmospheric and the runner passages are always completely filled with water. So the water coming from the coming from the penstock, it enters the casing and it fills entire turbine blades. Here the main difference from the impulse turbine is that the entire turbine blades is filled with water, and when the water strikes the blades, both impulsive force and reactive force is acting on the blades. And while passing through the blades only, the whole pressure energy gets converted to kinetic energy. So the absolute velocity of water at the inlet is higher, and as it passes through the blades its absolute velocity also decreases, and the pressure at the inlet of the turbine is higher, and while passing through the blades the pressure also gets reduced. So what is happening here is that the both pressure energy and kinetic energy is used for producing the mechanical energy. So these figures represents the schematic diagram of a reaction turbine. So as I said earlier, the entire turbine blades are filled with water, unlike Pelton turbine or impulsive turbine. So here there are two vanes. One is a runner vanes and another one is guide vanes. So normally the guide vanes are these are the guide vanes and these are the runner blades. Runner blades are fitted to a wheel which will rotate. Okay, the guide vanes will not rotate. It guides only the water. It guides water to the runner blades. So if we look at this figure, so guide vanes are situated here and the runner blades are situated here. These are the runner blades. So this guide vanes guides water to the runner blades. As water passes through the runner blades, it starts rotating. Thereby we are producing power. Okay. So here there is a spiral casing. The entire turbine blades and guide vanes are covered by a spiral casing whose area is decreasing. So the spiral casing area is a decreasing one. At the inlet, the area is large, and as it moves, the area gets reduced. Okay. So this is a schematic representation. Various dimensions are given here. So after passing through the runner blades, the water will go to the tail rails and the draft tube is used to transfer or used to flow used for the flow of water from the runner blades to the tail rails. So draft tube is a tube of increasing area. So the diameter of the runner is capital D. So various ratios are given. The length of the draft tube is 2.5 to 3 up to the tail race, and total length will becomes 2.5 to 3D plus zero point 0.5 to 1D. Okay, this is the total length of the draft tube. So let us discuss about the various parts. The penstock, as I said earlier, the penstock is a pipe which carries water from the dam to the inlet of the turbine. Okay, it is a large size conduit which conveys water from the upstream of the dam or reservoir to the turbine runner. The spiral casing, it constitutes a closed passage whose cross-sectional area gradually decreases along the flow direction. Area is maximum at the inlet and nearly zero at exit. Okay, the spiral casing is of a decreasing cross-section. Cross-sectional area is decreasing along the flow direction. Area is maximum at the inlet and nearly zero at the exit. So guide veins or wicket gates. It is also known as wicket gates. These veins direct water onto the runner to an angle appropriate to the design. So these guide veins guides water to the runners. Actually, we can adjust the guide vein angles. So according to the load, we can adjust the guide vein angles. Thereby, we can change the direction of water. So it depends upon the load which we need, or it depends upon the load, and by changing the angle, we can change the direction of water. So this can be controlled by using governors. The governors controls the guide vanes according to the load. It will do it automatically. Next, governing mechanism. Governing mechanism is used to change the blade angles according to the load. Next, runner and runner blades. So these are the driving force on the runner is both due to impulse and reaction effects. So the runners are used for producing the power. So it is the main part of a reaction turbine. The total number of runners are normally 16 to 24 runners depending upon the uh, criteria, depending upon the criteria or the load we are handling. Okay, we can provide 16 to 24 blades for a runner. Next, a draft tube. It is a gradually expanding tube which discharges water passing through the runner to the tail rise. So this is a representation of the dam and the arrangement of a reaction turbine. So from the dam, the penstock carries water from the dam to the inlet of the turbine. So while passing through the turbine, it starts rotating the turbine, thereby we are generating power. After passing through the turbine, it flows to the tail race through a tube which is known as a draft tube, which is an expanding tube. At the inlet, the area is less, and at the outlet, the area is greater. Next, work done and efficiency. So as we discussed earlier in our Pelton turbine or impulse turbine, we need to look into the different terms. The first term is the net head at the turbine runner. So the net head means the head available at the inlet of the turbine. So this is the net head. So in order to get a net head, we need to know the gross head. Hg is the gross head. That is the difference of water level between head rise and tail rise. So the difference of water level. This difference is known as gross head, total distance from the head rise to the tail rise. So net head can be obtained by minusing the loss of head in the penstock. So when water flows through the penstock, due to friction, there will be some loss. So we can reduce loss from the gross head. So minusing loss from the gross head, we will get net head. So the net head is also called available or working or operation head. So net head can also obtained from energy equation. So the difference between the total energy available at the exit from the penstock. So at this position, we need to find total energy at this position and the total energy at the draft tube inlet. So difference between these two energies gives the head, net head. So total energy available at the exit from the penstock minus total energy available at the exit from the turbine tube. So from the draft tube. So the total energy available at the exit from the penstock will be P by W. So this is Bernoulli's equation, P by W plus V2 square by 2G plus 2 plus Z minus P by W plus V square by 2G plus Z. So this is for energy available at the inlet, and this is the energy available at the exit of the turbine. The difference between two gives the net head. So another condition is that if the draft tube exit is at tail raise level and the datum is also taken at that level. So so the datum is taken at the tail rail. If the datum is taken at the tail raise level, this becomes 0. So datum will become 0, and since it is leaving at the tail raise level, so it will be the atmospheric pressure. So this term also becomes 0. So the equation becomes H is equal to P by W plus V square by 2G plus Z of the penstock energy of the at the inlet of the turbine minus at the exit of the draft tube. So if we also neglect the velocity at the draft tube, if we neglect it as we are neglecting, so the term becomes 0. So the equation becomes H is equal to P by W plus V square by 2G plus Z. So this is the equation for net head. So work done by the runner. So let us look into this diagram. This is very much similar, or this is equal to the diagram of a seriously arranged radially curved vanes, as we discussed in the case of impact of jet. If you want, you can refer that video. There we have discussed the various terms. This is very much similar to that diagram. So R2 is the radius at the outlet. R1 is the radius of the runner at the outlet. So R1 and R2 terms are here. The velocity diagram is similar to the one which we had discussed in the case of impact of a jet. You please refer that video before coming to this video. Okay. So work done. The term work done is equal to rho into Q into VW1 U1 plus or minus VW2 U2, and Q is equal to A into V1. V1 is the absolute velocity of, of the jet or the water at the inlet. So the term becomes rho is equal to actually W is equal to rho G. W is the weight density. So rho is equal to W by G. So the next term becomes W by G Q into VW1 U1 plus or minus VW2 U2. Q is the discharge to the runner, which is meter cube. This is in meter cube per second. So the maximum output is obtained when the condition is VW2 is equal to 0. VW2 is equal to 0. This time VW2 is equal to 0 means what? Beta is equal to 90 degree. Beta is equal to 90 degree. This angle will become 90 degree. So VW2 is equal to 0, and that means what? The water is coming to the blades from this region and leaving the veins at this region, and VW2 is equal to 0 means the water leaves the blade radially, so it is leaving the blades radially. Okay, that is the significance of VW2 is equal to 0. So the VW2 is equal to 0. Thus, this term becomes 0. VW2 is equal to 0 means this term becomes 0. Therefore, work done is equal to WQ by G into VW1 U1. This discharge in this case is radial. So the discharge is radial. So removing this term means the discharge is radial. So only for radial discharge the work done is maximum. For radial discharge the absolute velocity at the exit is radial. Next, hydraulic efficiency. So as we discussed in the case of impulse turbine, here also we need to refer different efficiencies. So the different efficiencies are hydraulic efficiency. First one is hydraulic efficiency, which is the power developed by the runner divided by power supplied to the turbine. So power developed by the runner is the work done per second. So this itself is the power developed by the runner. So WQ by G into VW1 U1, and power supplied to the turbine is equal to WQH. So cancelling out these terms. So the final equation becomes VW1 U1 divided by G into H. If VW2 is not 0, if VW2 velocity of whirl at exit is not 0, then the hydraulic efficiency equation becomes VW1 U1 plus or minus VW2 U2 divided by GH. The hydraulic efficiency of the Francis turbine. So normally the range will be between 85 to 90%. To the term mechanical efficiency. So the mechanical efficiency is shaft power by divided by the power developed by the runner. So the shaft power is equal to P, and the power developed by the runner will be this equation WQ by G into VW1 U1. So P divided by WQ by G into VW1 U1. So this is the mechanical efficiency, and overall efficiency is equal to shaft power. Shaft power is the output. Shaft power, the power available at the shaft is the shaft power divided by the input is the water power WQH. So the same equation can be obtained by multiplying hydraulic efficiency into mechanical efficiency. So hydraulic efficiency, we know that power developed by the VW1 U1 divided by G divided by WQH. WQH, and the mechanical efficiency equals P divided by power developed by the runner U1 by G. So these two terms will cancel out, and the final term will be P divided by WQH. So this is the overall efficiency. The value of overall efficiency varies from 80 to 90%. Okay.